Yo, 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 what's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Nate the Great coming at you with another live. You already know if you're new to the channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe. To all the returning friends and family, you already know it's peace and blessings. For those who was just in the previous live, apologies, I had to end it. Apparently, I was having issues with the mic value. I don't know why, but I'm back. I'm going to give y'all some time to tune in. I'm going to definitely get down to business. I feel like I'm gonna have to repeat myself because the previous live nobody could really hear me. So, like I said, appreciate everybody that tuned in Friday for the conversation. Appreciate everybody that gave in their input, especially those in the chat. For those that missed it, definitely catch the replay. For those celebrating birthdays, may I have a continued blessed year around the sun. Jared, what's going on? Give me a one in the chat, Jared, if you can hear me better. I was having mic issues apparently, but I had to come to StreamYard. But yeah, hopefully everybody had a blessed weekend. All right, good looking. Hopefully everybody had a blessed weekend. Hopefully everybody was able to get out and do what they needed to do. Hopefully everybody was able to enjoy themselves. I know for some the weather is still a little unbearable. So, appreciate you, Lola. Appreciate you, baby. Yeah, my bad. I don't know what the hell was happening. I ain't never have that issue on no vertical, but I'm gonna figure out what the hell the problem is. I guess that was the man upstairs telling me to do it again and do it where normally do it. So I'm gonna do it today. Some of y'all might have heard the situation that took place. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. So it must be something with the YouTube app itself. So apologies, y'all, if y'all couldn't hear me. Some of y'all might have heard the story about the man that got unalive basically for slapping up a girl up in the Bronx. Now, again, RIP to the man and, condolences to his family, because again, don't nobody want to be burying family, especially at this time juncture right now. But I'm going to say to some degree that man could have avoided his own situation. Um, Fellas, I'm going to say this again for those that need to hear it. Not every action needs a reaction, you know. But I'm also going to call this down the line too, because there's some women who are putting themselves in positions to where you are unprotected. Now, you hear people saying that the women are the most unprotected species, so on and so forth. But to be quite honest, some of y'all put yourselves in a position to be unprotected. You go out there with this nonsense and this rhetoric thinking just because you might have some people that they going to just be able to swoop in a in a drop of a dime and help you out. But guess what? There could be a situation that you done put yourself in and ain't nobody gonna be able to help you right then. And what are you gonna do then? Y'all have to stop with this aggressive energy. Stop with this notion that you could beat a man or try to emasculate a man. Because there's some of y'all right now who are putting yourselves in grave danger. There are some women who wasn't doing that, and we see what happened to them, Because again, not every person is mentally fit, mentally stable. So, it's about that time to really stop with the aggressive energy, stop provoking certain situations, and just move away from the things you need to move away from in order to avoid these type of scenarios from happening. You got to know when to just leave things alone. Serious, baby. Yeah, I had to come on here serious. Yeah, apparently uh the YouTube app is having an issue with the microphones and stuff, so I had to come here. But nonetheless, oh yeah, my fault. So I know my mouth. But no, again, you get tired of hearing that they the most unprotected species when some of them are putting themselves in danger like they got all the protection in the world. I would say for some of y'all women out there, again, quit with the aggressive energy. Quit with this notion of trying to make a man feel smaller or try to make him feel less than. Khadijah, baby. Chill, will, baby. Yeah, I guess it was something going on with the YouTube app itself. So I had to come here. But, I wanted to get that across the board, you know, because again, you know, that young man was supposed to be an up and coming rapper. And that's another thing for some of y'all. You can't call yourselves up and coming rappers and you're still trying to live the street life. You're going to have to give up one of the two. Now, again, from what was said, he had just previously slapped this girl the day before, whatever the case is. I guess it was on social media or something case. And the following day, his mans and them left him right there. Now, my thing is, I was saying to the fellas again, too, be careful on who you choosing as friends. Be careful on who you riding with in these streets if that's what you're going to do, be in the streets. Because there is no honor amongst thieves and there is no loyalty amongst these folks as well too. Because if at any time you could think to leave your friend knowing that something could possibly happen, you ain't a real one, and that's crazy. Now, you know, do I feel he deserved to lose his life because of what he did? No. He might deserve to get punished, but you know, in that same token, you gotta remember there are people who will crash out for their loved ones or crash out for their friends and stuff like that. Not saying it's wise to do, but in the same token, you got to put that into perspective. You know, there are going to be some people who are not tolerating the women around them or in their family being harmed in any way, shape, or form. So when you decide to put your hands on them, just expect some form of get back. You know, but again, some of y'all are gonna have to stop with this aggressive attitude. Stop with the notion that you could just beat anybody and everybody because, like I said before, physically you are not stronger than a man, and on top of that, why put yourself in a position where now nobody comes to help you or nobody comes to your rescue? What you gonna do then? You don't know how this person mindset is. You don't know where the mental stability is at. You know, and it could end up being very consequential for you. You know. Now again, you know, there's some things that I feel should never go overboard. You know. Now again, young men out there who need to hear this, don't think that resorting to violence is going to always be the key to shutting down certain scenarios and situations. Because it won't be. Kailani, what's going on? Budfather, what's going on? Appreciate y'all. Again, look how many people we have in the early grade plot right now because of these type of scenarios. Like prime example, we got some of y'all who are doing the utmost. You want to curse out a dude, you want to slap a dude, you want to do all these things that you know you ain't supposed to be doing. Again, stop lifting your hands up towards men like you're ready to fight. Get out of that aggressive nature because you're going to get somebody who's going to give you that energy you're putting out there. And at that point, what will you have done then? You're going to be looking for somebody to protect you. Oh, you go ahead and do it. I'm going to get my brother. I'm going to get my uncle. I'm going to get this. I'm going to get that. It shouldn't have to come to that. It never should have to come to those scenarios. But again, when you put yourself in dangerous positions, that's going to happen. But then you're also going to have some people who they ain't going They ain't gonna be around you, and they definitely not gonna uphold you when you're wrong. And again, fellas, you don't necessarily have to get crazy, put your hands on, or do anything to get your point across, or just to get away from the scenario. Sometimes it's best to just walk away. It don't matter what that woman is saying, because again, ultimately, the scenarios that you put yourself in could get you caught up like this dude got caught up. And I only feel bad because it's crazy how his friends really just left him. It's like they spotted what was going to happen and they just hauled ass on it. Now, again, common sense would tell somebody anyway. If I just did something and it was on the internet and it's probably circling around, let me get up out of Dodge or let me not be sitting around a certain area, because who knows what could happen. Tell them about an ambulance, somebody did something. But yeah, again, it's crazy. And again, don't call yourselves rappers or entertainers and you're not trying to leave street aspects on. You're going to have to choose either or. Because some people say you could be both. Yeah, that's truth to some extent. But then, depending on what you decided to do, that could get you caught up. You want to still be wrapped up when you trying to make it out the hood or you trying to make it out, out of your scenario. You're going to have to choose a side, you know. Not saying that you're not supposed to hold it down and do whatever if that's what you're doing. But you gotta be wise and smart in what you're doing too. Like prime example, you can't be out here saying I'm a rapper and I'm an entertainer, but you out here robbing, you still out here doing things in the streets that could get you tied up, or worse, could get you locked up, or worse, you already know, get you unalive. At some point, you're gonna have to make a decision on what's more important. Now, again, it's sad because when you really look at it, it's not necessary. It's not necessary for you to get crazy and argue and even, again, get to a physical level. Again, that's on both ends. Some of you fellas are going to have to learn how to use your emotional intelligence. Some people are going to say and do things, again, to get a real reaction out of it. And again, it's just knowing when to bite the bullet and when not to. I don't feel it's conducive on either end to, get to that point. Lara, baby, I think it's unfair though. It's unfair again that we have scenarios like this happen. But again, for some of y'all women who need to hear this, you know, it's time for y'all to stop saying that you're the most unprotected when it's all said and done. You're putting yourselves in a position where you need protection because it could go wrong. It could go horribly wrong. We've seen this happen countless times. Coming with that aggressive energy, you want to disrespect, you want to call somebody everything outside the child of God, and even push the scenario of getting physical with somebody. It's not going to be a good look because you might have somebody that just don't care. And if they decide to do whatever, that's the position you won't be held in. And now here it is, another family will be sitting here planning the funeral. Again, this is something that some of y'all need to hear, really need to resonate with. There's multiple ways to handle scenarios, again, without having to get violent or get crazy. The problem is some of y'all don't want to do it. You don't want to follow it, But I'm telling you, in some scenarios, people are not going to care. They're going to crash out, especially if they feel they got the opportunity. The only thing that's crazy about the scenario I'm talking about now is that, again, your friends left you for dead. They on camera as well, too. So guess what? At some point, They're going to be looking into those ones to find out what all happened. Like I said, the guy didn't even notice that that was going to be his last moments sitting in front of anyway, because the headshot came from behind, like execution style. So he didn't have a chance to react to do nothing. Don't nobody want to be in that position. At least that I believe. Don't nobody want to be in that type of position. You not knowing where the bullet coming from or where the shot is coming from. But then again, nobody wants to be in that scenario, period. There's different ways to handle situations. Now, I'm not going to lie. In the city, some of the violent crimes that we was accustomed to has gone down. Surprisingly, it has gone down. It's not saying that we still don't have crime, but some of those violent crimes and some of those other crimes have definitely gone down. And for good reasons. Because some people would try to say it's hard to raise kids in the city. No, it's not. It's not hard to raise kids anyway. It all depends on who's raising them. I've seen people be in the most grittiest of places and still manage to raise their kids right. Their kids manage to grow up. You know, kids manage to grow up and get a great education and able to move forward in life. You know, again, it all depends on you, the parent. And I would say for some of y'all who are raising young men, teach them that they don't have to always resort to violence, especially when it does come to the young queens. But for some of y'all too, teach your daughters that being aggressive and giving all that attitude and trying to emasculate somebody is only going to lead to their demise at some point. Didi baby, those that just tuned in, I make sure y'all hit that like button. My bad, y'all. I'm hovering over my coffee pot. It's about that time. But yeah, it's sad only because again, your friends left you on stuck. So if you gonna be out here in these streets, you gonna be quote unquote doing what you doing, you better make sure your team is solid. And I would say that in any aspect of life. Make sure your team is solid. Because the minute that person decides to get up and move away, or the minute that person decides they're not going to give you fair warning on something, even if you survive whatever, those people you're gonna have to look at. You know, and I'm sorry, but we get tired of hearing the same repeated stories like that. And it's time for us to really start teaching this notion of things too. The guns ain't necessary. You know, if you having a issue with somebody, I'm from that era where if you had an issue with somebody, man, listen, y'all was going to either shoot it out as far as fighting, or y'all was really going to shoot it out. When it got to shooting it out on the second tip, that was because there had been lines that were crossed, and it happens, especially again when you're moving in those streets. But again, there's multiple ways to deal with scenarios. Like, shoot, you don't necessarily gotta get to the weapons. Shoot, y'all can have a war of words. And again, if y'all feel like the words are not helping, if you feel like the scenario is not getting anywhere, then shoot, get your aggressions out. Put the boxing gloves on. Or if not, bare knuckle box. Do something along those lines. Because again, it's easy to take a life. It's hard to bring one back. And you can't bring one back. So again, if it's not to that level, in that degree of I gotta protect myself, then put the guns down. Again, put the guns down. Because again, these are scenarios that are taking people and ripping families apart. And that's what I'm saying. It's time to really just change the mindset. And I would say that even on here. Appreciate you for dropping those links, serious baby. Working hard in this damn AC, baby. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's some situations happening, like prime example, situations we just had recently, especially dealing with things of online nature. You got to be mindful because again, you're gonna have some people who feel like, okay, well, you keep doing this. Well, now it's time for me to teach you a lesson. But how you teach somebody a lesson, it solely depends on you. I mean, and you got to think about it too. There's no need to fully crash out the way you are ripping the fabric away from your families. You know, appreciate you, Lara, baby. I don't think it's fair. It's unfair to sit here and think that we always got to come to some form of negativity when it comes to handling situations. Now, again, was that man right for slapping that woman? No, he wasn't, because he could have dealt with that a different way. He could have just walked away. Because I don't fully know what all happened for him to even slap her. But then again, I know in some scenarios, some of it does come from, again, some of y'all just blatantly being disrespectful, calling them everything out of their name. And some people just don't play around. But fellas, it's some of y'all who are gonna have to learn again that emotional awareness and maturity. Just because you got called out your name wild crazy, that don't necessarily mean you gotta give it energy. You just keep it moving. Especially when you know it ain't true. You know, Somebody could sit here and call you, they could call you anything. They could call you a bum, they could call you anything out the damn anything out the book. But does that necessarily mean it's true? No, it doesn't. It's just like some of y'all get crazy when somebody call you dusty, but come on now. Those is words that they really don't have no meaning to it. They don't have no meaning to it. So, why give it the energy? Prime example. Before I found out I was having issues with the mic, had a troll came in here and told me kiss their ass. Now, if I was somebody who didn't care, if I was somebody who was unaware of my own surroundings, I probably would have crashed out. Probably would have, but then again, it's no need to crash out, especially when people ain't worth your time. Because I've always said this before: if you can't say it directly to somebody, then you really ain't saying nothing. And there's no need to react to it. So Leonica, baby, that's what I'm saying. Like for some of y'all, again, think before you do things, because some of the things you might think on doing can be your downfall. If you want to be here longer, you know, do what's necessary. You know, Stop getting wrapped up and stop getting all emotional over things that ain't worth getting emotional over. The thing is, move forward. I've had people on both ends, male and female, said some real harsh things, but guess what? It never got to me because I was a different breed and still a different breed to this day. If it ain't worth my energy, if you're not telling me something I need to hear, I don't hear it. And I won't adhere to it neither. There's some of you young fellas out there, you getting all emotional because somebody might have said something to you. Now you ready to go and grab the weapons. No, your biggest weapon should be your brain. Use it. Sorry to say it that way, but use it. Using your brain to keep you here longer. Being aware of what's going on will keep you here longer. Being aware of the people that you're around will keep you here longer. Because if you're around the wrong type of folks, those wrong folks at some point will leave you in a trick bag. Now, again, that man right there possibly could have still been alive, or who knows what could have happened. But again, you look at the whole video, it's like they knew what was going to happen. And instead of giving him a fair warning, or instead of at least telling yo, let's go dip off somewhere, let's go do this. Nah, y'all left it. In my opinion, that felt like a setup. Who knows what could have been the situation? Who's to say these people probably didn't already know what was going on and got ran down on? Look, we know you hang out with this one. We just want you to bring him here. We just want you to do whatever, and that's it. Because there are situations that occur like that. Again, you got to be mindful because some people will sell you out in a heartbeat, especially if it's for some money. And hopefully that wasn't the situation. But in the long run, um they are gonna get questioned about this because y'all was the last ones there before the initial situation happened. And again, if that was supposed to be your man's in them, you don't leave your man's in them on stuff. That's why I said for some of y'all that want to move around these streets and do whatever, you better make sure your team is solid. Shades, baby. What's going on, sis? You got to make sure your team is solid all around the board. Because again, if your team is solid, they ain't gonna lead you to they ain't gonna lead you to your downfall. And if anything, they gonna ride with you regardless. Now again, there's some of y'all who don't necessarily have to resort to violence just to get your point across, or just to, do what's necessary. Multiple ways to get around that. Shoot, the best way sometimes is just again ignoring what was said. Be safe on that road, baby. Anybody that could be driving right now or tuning in on the road, please keep yourselves safe on the road. Some of these people don't know how to drive. I always stress that out though. But it's just, like I said, life is too short. And especially it's too short to be sitting here going back and forth with people that, is meaningless. When it's all said and done, you gotta worry about yourself. You gotta focus on yourself. And if you claim you trying to make your way to the top, you got to choose the most important strides to get to there. Yeah, you can't sit here and say you want to be the next big thing, but you're not willing to leave certain aspects alone, especially in the streets. Like you can't sit here and say you want to be the top rapper or top R&B singer, but you're still out here slinging drugs. You're gonna have to choose something at some point. Make wise choices and decisions. You know, Again, be careful with your interactions with people on both sides. Geraldine, baby, welcome back, sis. And that's the thing. It really is important to figure out the most important things for your life because nobody's going to be able to do that but you. You are solely in control and in charge of what you bring to your life. Now, if you want to continue to be around drama, then guess what? That's exactly what's going to happen. You're going to get nothing but drama. Now, if you decide you're going to stay away from it and get away from it as much as possible, then make sure you're doing so. Again, just eliminate the toxic society around you because there's certain things in society that is toxic. That's what brings out this toxic energy. You know, again, it's best for you to move away. No need to get crazy. No need to give the energy where it's not needed. And when you do have to defend yourself, you defend yourself the proper way. But always resorting to the violence and the weapons, That's going to be a major downfall for a lot of y'all. Now, some of y'all might not care because it's just what you're accustomed to. The minute something happened, I gotta take this person out. But then you're taking yourself out the equation. You're taking yourself out the quote unquote game. You're taking yourself out the game of life because that's exactly essentially what's going to happen. You're going to end up getting wrapped up and could end up doing 25 to life. And if you got a family already, especially kids, that's going to damage the whole structure more than anything. Because it's hard to try to raise a child or it's hard to try to be in your child's life when you're behind them walls. And there's some of y'all out here, especially some of you younger folks, you are just newly fathers or mothers and you putting yourselves out there like you don't care that you got an offspring out here. It's time to change that mindset. It's time for you to realize what's more important in life. And that's what some of y'all have to do. Figure out what's important, what's conducive to your life, what's going to bring the best outlook and the most positive outstands. And then you keep it pushing. You know, there's nothing great about being behind a steel cage and not being able to protect your family the way you're supposed to be able to protect your family. You know, for some situations, we already know why some people are in jail, and some of it is because, you know, drug habits, drug use might be coming from a scenario where that's all you was raised around, or no, is heavy drugs, violence, and destruction. Now, again, you know, for those who are not coming from that, there's some of y'all who still have time to make the right decisions. But I would also say in some instances, some of y'all are doing things again just out of peer pressure because you feel like you have to make a name for yourself or you feel like you have to show the people that you're that big and bad. You're willing to crash out. But for what? You're going to crash out and then do what? Sit here and cry later on? Or you're going to come to your senses and realize, damn, I didn't necessarily have to do it. But you already done did the action. So, of course, you know, again, think before you do things. You still have a window of opportunity to make sure you're in a great space before you decide to do anything. You know, but I was mostly just saying that because it's really needed right now. You know, there's people who are taking taking the worst roads just to try to get somewhere. They ain't looking good. Because again, some of y'all leaving your families unprotected. Some of y'all leaving your families in a position where they're gonna have to pay for your cost. They're gonna have to pay for your situations. That's like your that's like your child being out here in the world stealing from the plug or stealing from the neighborhood drug dealers. You think them drug dealers ain't gonna at some point come at them? Or you don't think the things that they do ain't gonna have a repercussion to it? How they say you ran off on the plug twice? Shoot, you might not make it the first time around. You might not. Because again, what you're doing is putting yourself in a position to where you're gonna have to ultimately pay the price. Do you think it's fair? No, it's not fair. Again, there's ways to try to get to your level of expertise and also get to a higher level of learning and stability. But again, it's solely up to you on how you gonna do it. You know, they have to take accountability and responsibility for their own actions. That's the truth. Now, I see in this scenario right here, you know, it's sad because again, he ain't see it coming. You know, but again, when you have friends who are not solid like that, or when you have people around you who are not solid, these are scenarios you're going to come across. Now, again, Did he deserve to lose his life? No. I feel he should have got taught a lesson, or it could have been done a certain way, where eventually, again, person doesn't lose their life. I feel you should never lose your life, even over the smallest situations like that. But then again, we've had so many scenarios where we have young women in the grave now because we've had men who didn't know how to control themselves. But then we also got young men who are in the grave because you have some women who are setting them up and doing all sorts of corrupt stuff. So again, it goes on both ends. You have to just be careful your interactions, be careful on who you decide to be around. And again, don't be a crash out. You know, despite what might be going on, you don't necessarily have to give a reaction. Yes, you're supposed to defend yourself. I'll say that. But there's a way to defend yourself. I've always felt like this. If if the situation doesn't call for it, then I can figure out how to do what I have to do and not be violent. It's sad that this is what we're coming to, though. And I think that again, if you're going to be moving in these streets, if you're going to be moving around and doing what you're doing, whether you down with the gang politics, whether you're not, no matter what your situation is, right? You got to be careful, because again, you got to think about it. You're going to put yourself in a scenario where it's going to be hard for you to get out of it. Anita, baby, what's going on? What's going on? Hope all well with you. But this is what I'm saying. You got people who are not considered street dudes or street chicks. They roam around the streets, but that don't necessarily mean they down with all of the unnecessary nonsense that kills our communities. To be quite honest, we killing our own communities off because we're pulling the trigger, or we're stabbing, or we're doing everything towards our own. Spider, what's going on, my guy? Like I said, we gotta have our energy prepared and ready for the real enemies. People hate to hear that, but you need to hear that. And I'm gonna be one of them that's gonna be bashing it into your heads to some of y'all getting it. Have that energy and aggression for the real enemies. Some of y'all need to start focusing on what you're gonna do in the next few years. Because who knows what's gonna happen in this country of ours. And some states, at some point, if y'all don't cut down with the violent crimes, if you don't cut down with all of the looting, the stealing, and damaging and destroying your communities, at some point, martial law will come into effect. You know, it's hard to say about New York City because some of our violent crime, well, most of our violent crimes have gone down. Yes, we still have gun violence, but it's not as bad as it once was. My god sister just moved out to East New York and told me she don't even like it over there because they just had a shooting and she walked out to a dead body. Don't nobody want to wake up and witness that early in the morning. But again, for some situations, it's street ties. That's the reason why there's a lot of that happening. But there's also scenarios where, again, some people are innocent bystanders. And that's what we got to eliminate, the innocent bystanders who are getting caught up in the crossfires. But I would also say it's a rabbit hole that we go down every day. And we're going to have to start getting back to that. Nobody should have to fear coming outside, hanging out, or enjoying what life is bringing them just because people don't know how to act. People want to be ignorant, they want to be violent. And in some situations, alcohol is the main reason why some of these scenarios are happening. Believe it or not, these grown folks better lace them damn boots up and realize that this world don't owe you a damn thing. Take advantage of what this universe has to offer and stuff. Exactly. And that's the thing. We don't know what's going to happen in these next few years. We don't even know what's going to happen for the future. Like I was saying, some of y'all would want to get yourselves in a position of trying to utilize what resources we do have and trying to make it beneficial for the future, even setting up new things. Because again, the value of a dollar, the US dollar, is going down in value all the time. You know, and that's the thing. We have this raw, aggressive energy towards our own. And we don't have that same aggression towards what's really going on in the world around us. And that's something that has to be suppressed. We're gonna have to suppress that, or we just gonna have to start doing better and thinking better. Because again, we don't know what could happen in the next few years. And if we keep on with these type of events happening, like I said, in certain states, martial law is already about to come into full fruition, whether you believe it or not. It's sad to say it, but in some states, yeah, you're gonna need martial law because it's crazy how again some of y'all just don't value life. You know, it's crazy that you'll sit here and give your energy towards your own brother and sister, but when it comes down to what's really important, you ain't trying to jump on board. You ain't trying to jump on the bandwagon and do what's necessary. Like there's some of y'all that cry, but you ain't doing nothing. So how do you expect your communities or how do you expect your areas to be any better when you're not trying to fight for what's right? And that's the truth. You can't cry about certain scenarios, but then again, you are watching some scenarios happen right in your face day in and day out, and you're not saying that. You're not holding people accountable. You're not trying to say, well, look here, this could be done a little bit better, or we don't necessarily have to get towards this. You know, there's some of y'all, especially some of y'all adults and young adults, who are enticing these kids to do things. See, I can sit here and say that, yeah, this young generation is at fault for certain things. But there are other things that they're not at fault for. They're not at fault for it because they're learning this shit from the adults or the people who are supposed to be adults. How can I expect these kids not to gangbang, prime example, if I'm out here gangbang? Or if I'm out here still being active in these streets doing certain things that I know for a fact they are looking at. Again, they will mimic anything that they see. This is why some of them are putting themselves in danger, mimicking things that they see online and these coming from adults. Like, at what point do some of y'all say it's time to mature in the mind and say, can't do this? You know, I gotta set a better example. I gotta definitely show a better example, especially to those that's coming in or coming behind me. James, what's going on, my guy? Coffee cups in the chat. Coffee cups in the chat. um, but this is what we gotta understand. How can we expect our communities to be stronger, to start blossoming again, to start getting back to any form of success when we are part of that destruction? And I'm not saying all adults, no. There are some adults who are actually doing the opposite. These adults are trying to make sure we got things in place, especially for the younger kids. Oh, serious. Look at your little baby boxing gloves, baby. Oh, put your baby boxing gloves in the chat. Put your baby boxing gloves in the chat. But yeah, come on now. Like, prime example, we cry about certain programs not being around, but we could actually create our own progress, create our own programs, and then again, the progress will start. We can start eliminating some of the things that have been detrimental to us. And I think that is crucial to start thinking. Again, what's better for the society? What's better for the people in society? What will be better is us moving away from, again, toxic energy. You know, like prime example, we got a bunch of young men and women who are in the grave right now because they was following behind the wrong type of adults. And these adults are supposed to have more common sense, more logic. They're definitely supposed to be more aware of, impending scenarios. And at some point in life, some of the things you were doing when you was younger, it should resonate with you that once you get a little bit older, it's time for you to move away from that. It's time for you to move away from it because, again, it serves no purpose. And then the only thing you're doing is, again, encouraging the ones that are coming up under you. So how do I expect, prime example, the kids to be more educated and not trying to do nothing to help get them the education that they need? Or I'm not trying to help them better themselves. Now, you have some adults who was young and dumb and they got themselves together. They realized, certain things just wasn't worth it. Their freedom is more worth anything. So they got away from it. You got some people who was, whether they was gang tied or not, or just doing street things with a clique. Once they done had a family, they realize, what? I want to be here longer. I want to make sure my child gets the best. I want to make sure that my child is not out here stuck. I want to make sure my family is protected. Let me get away from this scenario and get into something better. You know, let me change my outlook in life. And that's what a lot of y'all need to start doing. Changing your outlook for life. Because again, what's more important? You know, and again, sitting up in the cell for 25 to life, it ain't helping. You have some people right now who are feeling that as an effect. They decided to still move a certain way. They still decided not to do anything better than conducive, and now they paying for it. You know, and that's one thing you got to realize. Don't nobody want to be stuck in no cell 23 hours out the day, 1 hour of rec time. And trust me, there's some people right now who are still crying in their cells as we speak now. Because again, the decision they decide to make cost them a whole lot. James number 8, what's going on, my guy? That's why I said it's important. It's important to teach a better balance and hopefully try to help somebody gain a better balance in life. Prime example, you can't expect these kids not to be out here fighting and being violent when they see adults out here being violent, being destructive. And again, if it don't apply, let it fly. This is only going to those who need to hear it. Because again, at what point do you say enough is enough? When do you say it's time for me to do something better? When do you say it's time for me to be more constructive with my life? And also be more constructive for the people that's around. There's some people who have the greatest support systems and refuse to do anything, which is sad because, again, if you want better, you got to do better. That's what I'm saying. Like, prime example, some of these young ones are not respecting the elders in the community because some of these elders are out here doing the same exact thing. Again, you of a certain age, it's time for you to carry yourself a certain way. All of this trying to be young and trying to have a second childhood, or you just trying to be down because you trying to get in the loop of things. Nah. When you become a certain age, it's time for you to do what's necessary. Some people don't want to hear it, but it's the truth. You can't be 50, 60 years old and you still out here either trying to be down with the young ones, be around them. Again, you have a set group you're supposed to be around. Like prime example, you in your 40s, what are you hanging around with people who are just getting into their 20s? Some of them not even 21 yet. What's the purpose of you being around them? Unless you trying to guide them or unless you trying to teach them something. Well, what's the use of you trying to be around them, hang around them? I had somebody the other day try to come at me and tell me, oh, I almost got into it with some young ones because of whatever, but then, like I said, I'm not for the disrespecting of the elders to a degree, but in the same token, I had to correct that one because I'm like, wait a minute. At a certain time frame, you should have been amongst your peers. You should have been amongst people that's in your range, or you should have just went home. You can't expect to be around some of these young folks and think that some of them are going to have respect for you. Some of them don't got respect because they ain't getting respect, and they not learning respect all around the board. And some of these ones are going to feel a type of way, especially again, you don't need to be around them. But some of them, that's creepy. If you this old, why are you trying to be around us for? You know, again, it's a level of thinking you have to get to. You know, once you get to a certain age, all that I'm trying to be hip gotta go out the window. Nah, you could be distinguished, refined, and all of that shit. Again, just get around the right people, be around the right people. Again, if you're gonna be around these young folks, it better be for something that's dealing with some form of teaching, giving some form of advice where it's needed. But when you're sitting here trying to be amongst the young crowd, they ain't trying to hear that. They young, wild, and free. They trying to figure out their own life. So, you just got to be real. Again, you have to be the responsible one. You have to be the one that, again, sets the tone. Like, prime example, some of the older folks in my community, they don't hang around nobody that's not their age. Got some of the older folks that's in their 50s, 60s. Shoot, some of these people pushing 70. You don't see them hanging around no young ones or being around young ones unless it's their grandkid, family members, something along those lines. And they might come around just to make sure they good, and that's it. They keep it moving. Again, it's time to change the dynamics of thinking. It really is time. Because when it's all said and done, you are supposed to be the leaders. And some of y'all are not leading by example. Some of y'all are following trends too. That's another thing. You starting to see even that. Some of these older folks is following these trends or trying to follow these young trends. Nah. Once you get a certain age, you should be happy that you made it to that age. And that's when you start doing what's necessary. You know, I ain't messing with y'all. Are you trying to block somebody? James, put some more coffee cups in the chat. James number 8, get out them pork chop sandwiches. Serious, lock the door because somebody might come in here and they owe me some lottery tickets. But again, you know, gotta have more. You gotta have more common sense and more reasoning nowadays. You know, and that's the thing. Y'all want to be leaders of the new school, or y'all want to be leaders and reach out to these Gen Zers. Guess what? Every generation we had a large group of adults who was in one way, shape, or form, reaching out and actually getting through to those that are in the younger generation. Some might have had to change up their words or change up their slang to a degree, but then some people just still kept it distinguished. You know, However you feel you won't be able to reach out to those younger than you so you can try to get the message across, just make sure it's not compromising your integrity and compromising your strides and what you're trying to build and what you're trying to do. And there's some of y'all who really need to hear that. Because again, how do we expect the younger ones to follow behind or at least try to have a mindset to think for themselves when you're not thinking for yourselves clear? Again, you in your 50s, 60s, and you hanging around people that's in their young 20s, what you expect to happen? At some point, there will be disrespect because you're going to have one out of that group who just don't care about respect, don't care about morals, don't care about nothing. And they're going to say and do whatever just to get you up out of here. But again, you should be hanging amongst the folks that's within your range. Now, again, if you're going to teach these younger ones something, then teach them something that's valuable. If you want to be around them, if you want to try to reach out to them, you reach out to them by giving the best knowledge, information, and the ones that are going to take heed and take strides into building and doing whatever. Cool. You can't reach everybody, you can't save everybody, but the ones who you manage to reach out to, the ones who you manage to, you know, get on the right path, that's more important. Frugal baby. Y'all already know if y'all just tuned in, hit the like button. If y'all new to the channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe. But yeah, again, it's just how you deal with things. Again, there's some of y'all who cry and mope about the younger generation not having no form of respect, no form of decorum, or whatever the case is. But in the same token, some of y'all not teaching. Some of y'all not leading by example. Prime example, there's some of y'all that don't want these young ones out here, in the midst of the heavy drug use. But then here it is, you're promoting it to them. Like prime example, I smoke, right? But you won't catch me promoting that to somebody kid. You won't even catch me cammed up if I'm doing whatever. And I just won't be around those ones who don't need to be around, you know? Because again, I'm supposed to be leading by example. I don't promote certain things now. You live your life the way you feel you want to live your life when you're an adult. I can't tell you nothing. But then again, I could also give you advice. Don't be around the younger generation influencing them. Like there's some of these young ones going to jail now because got some of these older folks influencing them to go out there and rob and steal and kill. Come on now. Serious, you know what I'm talking about when I say smoke. I ain't talking about the other one. I ain't talking about that. And even on that level, I ain't promoting that. I ain't giving you won't catch me giving the kid a cigarette. You won't catch me giving the kid the other smoke because the hell I look like. And I've been that way since I've been that way since before the age of 21. Anybody that's younger than me cannot be around me at all. And I wouldn't allow it. I had one person saying, "Oh, why you ain't pass this to my cousin? He smoked." How old is your cousin, number one? And number two, what makes you think I was going to give that young one anything? Shouldn't they be worried about their books? Shouldn't they be worried about trying to get to the next grade? Shouldn't they be worried about trying to work on their comprehension skills, especially they barely speak English? Yeah, stop worrying about the wrong stuff. I had some people used to be mad at me too, even when I was younger. Oh, yo, why you ain't pass? Or why you ain't? Oh, why they can't get down? Because if something was to happen, God forbid, everybody here getting locked up for a charge because it's endangering the welfare of a child. Number one, endangering the welfare of a minor. Two, who wants that? Who you think want to be sitting up in jail or sitting around whatever or possibly getting a major fine because you decided you want to do something with somebody that ain't even old enough to, you know, come on now. It's just common sense. Nah, it's a whole fact, James. Number 8. Nah, I'm saying. Because that should be the mindset and level. But guess what? There are some adults and elders who don't care. Like there's some people who say, "Oh, I'd rather this child smoke with me, and at least they in safety." But you still encouraging the wrong shit because now when you decide you want to try to punish them or you want to try to talk to them about something, they ain't gonna want to hear that because the first thing they gonna bring up is, "Well, wait a minute, you initiated all of this, so why is it a problem now? You were sitting here allowing me to do this, so why is it a problem now?" And that's what you're gonna have to do. Well, I said you got to be careful with what you're doing and what you presenting to these young folks. You know, when you see they under a certain age, you shouldn't be enticing them to do anything that's going to be detrimental to their overall character building. Because in the long run, you're going to be responsible for a lot of that. And guess what? It'll be the same repeated cycle. Oh, these young ones. Oh, these young ones. Oh, these young ones. No, you had something to do with that. So now you got to eat that. You know, and again, especially when you got young ones, whether they immediate family or not, doesn't matter. You know, gotta think about it. You're sitting here enticing them to do things that they don't need to be worried about doing at this point. You know, when they get into adulthood, they can decide what they're going to do and what's going to be conducive to them. Or they could get into whatever they decide to get into when they get older. But when they're younger, they shouldn't be getting enticed. They shouldn't be around none of that in the first place. You know, but back to what I was saying in the beginning of the live, how some of y'all are going to have to start teaching these kids how to deal with their anger issues, how to deal with certain scenarios, and how to get themselves out of certain scenarios without it leading to some form of gun violence or violent crime, period. I can have a back and forth if I want to, but it's going to be a war of words. It's not going to be, I'm trying to take you out. I'm trying to do this to you. I'm trying to do that to you. Because why would I want to destroy something that I wouldn't want destroyed? That's what some of y'all have to start getting back into again, this mindset of thinking. And then some of y'all who are putting yourselves in the greatest dangers by not thinking and not being logical on stuff. So that's something some of y'all gonna have to think about. You know, how can I diffuse this situation without having to resort to some form of violence? Also needs to be a respect level while talking. You can't come talking to somebody and then talking to them like they some little kid or like they beneath you. Nah, gotta be respect all around the board. You know, that's what I'm saying. You know, there's some of y'all who are enticing these young ones to get out here and drink, smoke, and even enticing them to be into the heavy drug use. And when I mean heavy drug use, y'all should know what I'm talking about. There should be no reason why you in your young 20s and you already strung out on dope, strung out on coke. You know, but again, some of these people are going to end up following that path because of their backgrounds. And that's what you got to remember. You know, everybody's backgrounds is different. You know, some people are coming from a strong family background. Some people ain't. The ones that ain't, some of them might survive. Some of them might actually move away from, you know, they scenarios and break that chain of oppression. For some, it ain't going to be that easy. And for some, it's never going to happen. That's why I said be mindful and be careful in what you presenting overall. You know, it ain't hard to try to make things happen. But again, the right people have to stand together, band together. And again, remember the bigger picture. The bigger picture is if you want some of these things to stop happening in your communities, y'all gonna have to band together. Y'all gonna have to really put on your big boy and big girl boots and do what's necessary. Because again, in some scenarios, martial law is coming. In some states, it's probably already started. That's why you seeing some of these people out in the military and whatever. Guess what? That's because it's already started. You know, because in some of these areas, the violence is so high, the crime is so high. It's like, and then in some of these areas too, you have some of them who they police departments don't have enough on deck just in case. So yeah, you know what that next move is. Well, we got to send in the guards. We got to send in this, and it should never get to that point. It should never get to that point. You know, again, it's like you're supposed to be trying to combat the problem, but some of y'all still becoming a bigger problem and a bigger threat. These young kids are getting introduced to the hard stuff. Parents need to level up with their children. They are running them up. No, it's the truth. Serious. It is the truth, yo. You know, and that's the thing. You know, don't just start from what happens at home. It also starts from what's going on in your community. And if you're in a community where there's nonstop violence, nonstop drug use, you're being, you know, you're being subjected to it every day. You're not breaking the cycle. If anything, you're making the cycle worse. You know, you know, mental oppression is definitely the worst because again, we have some people who are mentally oppressed. And that's because they choose to be mentally oppressed. Some of them, not all, but some. Some know what they're doing. Some know they could do better and they refuse to do better. And they refuse to do better for those around them. And some people are just, again, caught up in all of the hype and all of the madness. Some people never mentally grow up. So this is why you're going to always get some scenarios where you got some of these older folks trying to be down with the younger folks or trying to encourage the younger folks to do things that they don't need to be doing. You know? But just remember, the chains of oppression will continue to be this way until some of y'all realize that the ways of thinking are wrong. What you might have learned and thought was normal, it ain't. Again, when you're not willing to make adjustments and compromises, yeah, it's gonna happen. You know. So again, solely up to you, the people, on how you want to move and how you want to create this generational wealth. And that's another thing. Start teaching what's important. Like I said, instead of worrying about distractions, instead of trying to party all day and every day, you need to worry about what's going to happen in the next few years. Start getting certain things in order. If you ain't got no savings account, you better start building one. If you ain't got no form of financial portfolio, better start getting into that. And the sad part about it is there are some adults out there who are trying to teach the best and trying to do the best. But when you have people who are divided, when you have people who honestly just don't care, and they're continuing not to care even into adulthood, it sets the wrong precedent. You know, again, you don't know what the situation could hold for us in the future. Do you really want to leave this earth at some point and not have a blueprint set for your family? Because I could be honest with you, the way some of these things are moving, you better hope that your children don't end up being slaves to whatever happens in the future. So I said it's important. Teach them about, economics. Teach them about the things that you know for a fact is going to be beneficial for them in the long run. Teach them about stocks and bonds, making right investments. Teach them how to save money. Teach them the value of a dollar. Show them that they're going to have to work for something in order for something to work for them. They have to start somewhere. And then some of y'all who are giving that great advice or showing the greatest examples. And I commend y'all for doing so because, again, we know the numbers should reflect more. It should be more people on deck with y'all. But again, when you have people who are divided, when you have people who just don't care because it ain't happening or it's not affecting their family or affecting their well-being and living, they're going to feel that way. But see, that's a mindset too that we have to eliminate. Those are the people we're going to have to start eliminating. Because again, they're going against what we're trying to do. We're trying to build something better, trying to create something better. And how can you create or do anything better when you have people who are showing they don't give a damn? It's just things to think about. It's things that should put you in a better mind state. But, again, your decisions in life, solely up to you. Like I said, there's some things you won't catch me doing because it wasn't done to me. And I come from that era. There's some things you won't catch me promoting to the young ones because I came from that era. We didn't know what was going on. We weren't supposed to know what was going on. Because if it wasn't nothing positive, if it wasn't something that we know for a fact was going to be a detriment to us, we didn't know about it. Again, it's about shielding the younger folks. And, it's also just about, again, making better decisions in life. You want these kids to make it past 21, you're going to have to start doing things that are needed. Again, some people, their book is already written. But for others, they still got a whole life to live. They still got a whole book to write. So why not try to teach them or try to show them the best ways to monopolize on what they need to monopolize on? You know? And that's what I'm saying. We have to start getting back to a level of excellence that we once was. Yeah, we've always had certain scenarios that have happened throughout the course of history, but guess what? We've also had things that we've strived on and we passed the generational torch to and we kept it moving. Now, yes, in every generation, there have been some groups of people who have dropped the ball, but you have others who have picked it up, took it into their own hands, and made something work. You know, and that's what I'm saying. For some of y'all that need to hear, there's some of y'all who just are gonna have to put your foot down and set the boundaries. Like again, some of you parents, put your foot down and set the boundaries. Your kids shouldn't be telling you what to do. Your kids shouldn't be up in your business when again you're an adult. But also remember some things you gotta remember you can't be doing around the kids because they are watching. They are taking heed to everything that's happening. And when it's all said and done, you're gonna use that. Like there's some of y'all right now, you having all of these disagreements and arguments with people. But in the same token, You doing it around them. So what you think gonna happen? Again, you gotta lead by example. You know, again, use your intelligence. Use the weapon that you was born with, your brain. You know, it ain't cool when you have these young folks who are too busy being an adult business. And we ain't just talking about the teenagers, we talking about even the youngest ones. No way an 8-year old should be knowing your whole business and repeating damn near everything that was said in the conversation. Or even saying, yeah, man, you know, this, that, and third. Nah, they supposed to be in a place, a child's place, not an adult's place. That's what I'm saying. There's some of y'all who are still with this mindset of we gotta be kids with the we gotta be friends with the kids. No, you have to set boundaries. Again, there are some things they shouldn't be around. There's some things they shouldn't be privy to. So again, watch what you're doing. Watch what you're saying around. Like prime example, how do you expect a kid not to be out here cursing when half of the time they getting the curses from home? How you expect your kids to go to school and learn something, or how you expect your kids not to be angry and be in a certain position when guess what's happening? You know, come on now. Again, the older folks that need to hear this, y'all got to start setting the better examples. You have to. No doubt, Larry. Appreciate you, baby. You know, it's critical nowadays. Like I said, there would be more young ones involved in community events and affairs if some of you adults would be a part of these community affairs. You know, you don't want certain changes happening in your community, then guess what? Y'all gonna have to stand together as a community. You know, and the elders, the adults, and the younger generation all supposed to band up for something. You know, and again, can't cry about certain things when you're not willing to be a part of the growth and the change. Can't cry about it. You can't expect these kids, prime example, or these young ones, prime example, to not be out here looting, stealing, and thieving when you got some adults doing the same exact thing. It's like one night I was at work, I had to let this young man know. You know, and I can tell he was probably in his, I'm gonna say probably mid 20s. He wasn't super young, but you ain't old neither. But you should be old enough to know. I'm not gonna put myself, my baby mother, nor my child, especially both of them are with me, in a position to where we could possibly get locked up, our child taken away, or getting put through a system. You know, come on now. There's some of y'all who need to start thinking better, thinking more clear, making better decisions, being safe all around the board. See, like that one night, try to come in here and try to do whatever. First things first, there's cameras everywhere. So that's number one. Number two, one of those cameras do lead to a precinct. So you gonna mess around, they're gonna be able to do what they're doing. And then when they come knocking on your door, when they find you in the streets, what? You're willing to go to jail and risk it all just for what? Some items? Some items that you could go somewhere else and get them for cheap nickels on the dollar, if that. Come on there. That's what I'm saying. It's like some of y'all just don't care. If I could do it, I could do it. But guess what? There's only going to be so much stealing and looting that's going to happen before you end up getting caught and wrapped up. 22, what's going on, my guy? There's only going to be so much pillaging and polluting your society before you get that wake up call. You might think, okay, I can keep getting away with this, or I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna just do this in different areas and different sections. It ain't gonna happen. Prime example, like there's some of y'all who think it's cool trying to invade somebody's house or trying to rob and take away from somebody who worked hard. But you have people who are old school and believe in that old school method. They will sit here and possibly even get to the point of death to defend their household, especially if there's a family involved. And some of y'all better learn. Word, what's going on, my guy? I mean, some of y'all that better learn because when you are invading somebody's property, especially when it's private property, they have all rights to do whatever. If they're in a state where they could carry legally, they ain't got to worry about no concealed, none of that. You think somebody ain't going to risk they all trying to protect theirs? And that goes for any scenario. Like I said, y'all remember what happened a while back? Them young boys thought they was going to rob that gas station. And that old man pulled out that pump and almost blew that boy arm off. Yeah, because some people are getting tired of the same shit. Some people are getting tired of they're working hard for things or they working hard to try to build for their future. And you got people who feel like, well, your future don't mean nothing. So I'm just going to take whatever is mine. Instead of saying, let me take this same energy and go apply myself to something and go make something work. Oh, yeah, and great live, bro. I was in the bushes last night. I did hit that like button. I was dealing with a situation at work to a degree. But other than that, great topic last night, bro. And that's what I'm saying. You know, there's some of y'all who really need to understand that. Guess what? Some people are going to get tired of the same old things happening. And when it's all said and done, they're going to defend themselves. And rightfully so. Like that old man had the right to defend himself in that gas station, prime example, because he done been a victim of that too many times. After a while, nobody's going to keep playing victim. Nobody's going to keep trying to go by the old laws and standards. You're going to have people who are just going to stand up and do what's necessary. And if you ain't prepared for what's happening, you better think twice. There's some people who thought they was going to get an easy come up and didn't come home at all. Done got lost in the sauce. TVs turned off. That's something y'all need to remember. Some people are willing to do what's necessary to protect their investments and protect what's rightfully supposed to be protected, their family. Again, what's the sense of putting yourself in a position where you could possibly be doing some time in jail, or you possibly could get unalived and never come home to you and yours? And I think that's a problem there. We need to go back to those traditional rules. They are more strict, clear consequences for discipline. You're right, serious. You know, and that's what I'm saying. Got to get back to that. Like I was saying the other day, when people are doing certain things that we know for a fact they ain't right, we need to bring back that public shaming. You doing certain things that you know for a fact you should be holding down, keeping private. Bring back that public shaming. You know, and that's what I'm saying. You know, it's sad that in certain instances we have adults out here who are again encouraging all the wrong shit for the young ones. You know, it's bad enough they already being encouraged and being peer pressured by their own peers. But then we got older folks that are doing it too. Like, make it make sense. And that goes for all around the board. Like, we know now social media has become that conglomerate. You know, and again, what they not seeing out in the streets, they seeing on the internet. Like I said, how you expect them to have respect for older folks or even adults of that nature in the elder states when some of y'all wilding out? I don't need to be screaming and yelling. I don't need to be giving out the wrong type of advice when I know I'm trying to do something great. You know, Like, how can I sit here and expect people to understand and even get the message correct when I'm not getting it correct? And that's the mindset some of y'all should have. If you're trying to do something greater and you're trying to do something that's conducive, again, you're gonna have to be more wise in what you're doing. Beefing back and forth, going back and forth for the wrong things, screaming and yelling at a device, it don't make sense. Only thing you doing is causing yourself health problems. Why? Because all that screaming and yelling at some point, they either have you catching a stroke, heart attack, or worse. Some of y'all, you mess around and get a brain aneurysm because you're sitting here going crazy for what? It ain't worth it. And before I even get further, again, healing prayers to those who might need it. Some of y'all I know are going through health issues. Some of y'all might have had some injuries recently. Some of y'all might have been in accidents. Healing prayers. Hopefully you get back to a healthy state so you could get back to active living in a normal life. You know, condolences to those who might have lost people recently, whether it's close friends or family. Again, it's a lot of that going around. But the main thing to remember too is, again, you're here for a purpose. Whether you know what your purpose is or not. If you don't know what your purpose is, it's about time for you to start figuring that out. Nah, but it's the truth, Shades. Like I said, there's ways to deal with things without getting too crazy, getting out of bull, you know, getting out of pocket basically, and getting overboard for what? Again, when you don't know people personally, what's the use of going back and forth with them? You say what you gotta say, you get whatever off your chest, and you keep it pushing because you still have a life to live. That's like that even in the streets. Well, even if you know somebody personally or not, why keep going back and forth? It's not worth it. It ain't getting you nowhere. Not getting you nothing but stress and headaches, heartaches for what? The goal should be trying to reach for a higher plantain, like for real. If some of y'all crying about dang things happening for your communities, that's because you're not being an active part of your community. You're not doing what's necessary. You're focusing on all the wrong distractions. You better focus on, again, what's going to happen in these next few years in this country of ours. You know, and that's the most important thing too. Again, just realizing that you know life is too short to be sitting here following and just focusing on distractions. Again, better worry about certain things as far as inflation. You better worry about these things that are needed because some of these prices, prime example for some of these foods, is going way high. Guess what? It's going to keep getting higher. There's some of y'all who need to, if you have the skills and the know-how, teach these young ones how to grow stuff, how to plant foods, how to do those things. This is stuff we need to start worrying about. Cry about how it's expensive for food, especially in the supermarkets. Some of y'all should start going to the farmers market if you could find one to get what you need to get as far as fresh stuff. And for whatever you can't, hey, get you a little garden space and start growing your own. Don't cost much to get seeds and plant seeds. Don't cost much. But at some point, you're gonna have to start getting back to, in my opinion, basic training. Because at some point, some of the things that's happening now, we ain't gonna be able to do. What's going to happen if we have to go back to the old ways of cooking food and doing things, even down to hunting? See, these are things that people don't think about. The world is consistently changing. People are still losing jobs as we speak now. Some of these people are losing jobs because of these AI robots, prime example. So what are you going to do if you don't have a plan B? You better figure out something because again, when it's all said and done, you are going to be left holding the boat. You got to be the one to maintain and stand firm, especially if you have a family. You know, no matter what life throws you, you got to be willing to throw those punches back. And again, I would say this for some of you young men out there to avoid having a situation like what just happened to this dude over the weekend. Don't put your hands on these women no more. If this ain't teach you nothing, this lesson should teach you something today. You don't necessarily have to get violent and you don't necessarily have to make poor choices that could end up eventually being your downfall. Be careful in who you decide to build with, or just be careful about your interactions again with people, you know, because sometimes the wrong interactions could be your last ones. You know, but again, just make sure the people around you who claim to be for you also have your best interests at heart and make sure that they don't place you in a trick bag. You know, I would say that in so many words because again, you need to hear that. The link is still in the chat in case anybody want to chime in on this topic. I thought I had it pinned, but apparently I didn't. And apologies again for those who was in the previous stream. Apparently the YouTube live app is having problems with their microphones. I had my volume straight up to the sky. And everybody said I was still sounding low, so I said, let me bring it to stream y'all real quick. But yeah, you know, again, you know, you gotta think for the better portion of the future. And you're not gonna get nowhere solid if you're not trying to make solid steps in progression. You know, there are many different levels to success. You gotta choose one though. Anything that's gonna lead to failure, that shouldn't be an option. I mean, yeah, failure is a part of the process of growth. Not saying that it's not, but it's about what you learn from that failure, learning not to make that mistake again, and moving forward. See, our mistake right now, at least in this generation, we still have some older folks who should be trying to show something better to these younger folks, but they're not. They're too focused again on trying to live a second childhood. They're too focused on, I want to be lit. I want to be a viral moment. I want to be this. I want to be that. Guess what? The reason why I said social media has become a gift and a curse to a degree, because let's be real. There's some of these people who are unaliving themselves basically by not being safe because they so focused on who posted what, who commented on something, so on and so forth. BDBGP going on, my guy. You know, and that's the thing. Like I was saying the other day, young girl damn near almost got hit by a bus because she was trying to be cute and pose for the damn camera. Again, your life and your safety is more important. Don't mess around and end up seeing the upper room before time because you was too busy trying to be lit. You was too busy trying to be cute. You was too busy just trying to see who commented and who did what and who posted what. You know, it's time for y'all to start being more aware and being more safe in what you're doing. Like I said, that person when that grabbed her back, she probably would have got hit by a whole bus. And again, you can't stop a bus when it's at full speed. Just like you can't stop a train when it's at full speed. Stop being so stuck in your devices and pay attention to your surroundings. Yeah, some people are being unalive now because they ain't paying attention to their surroundings. Somebody that messed around and God forbid shot them, stabbed them, or did something to them. Why? Because you so stuck in your phone instead of watching your surroundings, knowing that we still live in a dangerous world. On that. Again, we got to get back to the level of common sense. Got to get back to the level of thinking before doing. See, prime example. I gotta work in a couple hours. Now, yeah, I'm gonna be listening to my music and doing whatever, but in the same token, my earphones are not on full blast, so I can hear certain things. I'm not stuck in my phone, especially when I know I'm in the street. So I'm being careful and being aware of what's going on. Again, it's just important to start changing the way of things and get back to the things that once kept us together and once kept us glued together. They'll have some people saying, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Oh, you just talking." Okay, I could do all the talking in the world, but you know what I'm talking is some real facts right now, and that's what I'm gonna do. Keep talking those real facts, because again, your safety should be the most important thing. Remember, safety over everything, even in your life. Be safe and be careful in who you be around, who you give time to, energy to, all of that. If it's not nothing that's going to lead to something constructive, ain't no need to be around. You know, that's the problem. When some people get too much truth, they don't want to hear it. But again, you're gonna have to. How do you expect certain things to change, or how do you expect certain people to get the message when you're not giving them the proper message? See, me, I'm going to always give you something to think about. I ain't trying to come and save the world, but I'm just trying to bring some great conversations, but also bring something that we need to bring back. Critical thinking. And besides, you can only do but so much. You gotta do for yourself before you can do for others. See, I'm doing for myself, you know. But in the same token, I'm doing something for the people. I don't come on here and I don't talk about nothing that I don't have prior knowledge on or experience in. And if I'm going to talk about something, I do my research. And I believe that's what some of y'all should be doing from now on. Before you decide to do anything, have the proper knowledge and research done before you decide to do anything. That right there could save you time and energy, and it could also save you a bunch of nonsense. Never come on anywhere talking about things you have no prior knowledge to. Link is pinned, or link is still in the chat in case anybody want to chime in. I feel like I said what I need to say today. Uh, in order for some of our communities to get back to a progressive state, we're gonna have to get rid of all the toxic things that are destroying it, and we got to start holding people accountable, especially the people who claim they for the people and they shown that they not for the people. They shown that they're against the people. Got to bring that in. You know, we got to reel that back in. We also got to be aware of the scammers, the schemers. You know, we got to be aware of a lot of different scenarios because those same scenarios is what's destroying us now. We're gonna have to start doing better. And in order for the younger generation to come into something great, or in order for the younger generation to be great, we have to show them the blueprint of excellence and greatness. You know, and for those who really are going to do what's necessary, hey, you keep encouraging them even after they get to their goal. That's the most important. Oh no, I already know that 22. Trust me. There's a lot of things that in some of these states, trust me, like I said, they gonna feel it. Martial law is definitely something they've been talking about or implementing for a while now. So if you think that that's not going to be a problem, you'll find out the hard way. And again, for some of y'all, you need to realize right now it's about trying to gain not just financial structure, but gain structure for your family and your life. You don't want to be somewhere down the road and you and yours ain't at least in a higher position, or y'all still stuck on standstill. Again, get it together. Some of y'all coming from the era where knowledge was power and knowledge is key. So again, start passing the knowledge that you need to pass. Even the most up to date knowledge. Be up on it, you know, because again, it will give clarity and structure to those who are coming behind. It'll definitely waking up and wising up some who actually want to see change and see a great build. You know, we all don't want to be in a dire position, basically. And like I was saying earlier in the beginning of this live, there's some of you young men and women who need to stop putting yourselves in that position because I'm tired of hearing on both ends. Men are the most unprotected. Women are the most unprotected. No, the most unprotected are the unborn babies, the young babies, and the elderly. Charlotte. Those are the most unprotected. And the physically and mentally handicapped. They are definitely the most unprotected. If you know what you're doing, if you know what you're getting yourself into, and you still decide to get into it, just expect the consequences. That's it. Riders, baby. No doubt, no doubt. Save us all a plate, sis. You already know what it is. That's what I'm saying. You have to get back to that better mind state of thinking. But some of y'all being your own downfalls and detriments again because you know what's gonna possibly occur and you still do it anyway. Now, like I said, with that situation with that man, he didn't necessarily have to be unalive for doing what he did, but again, should have thought twice about putting your hands on somebody. And I'm gonna say that on both ends, because it's not just men that are out here doing that. There's some women with that again, that toxic aggressive energy. When you give out that form of energy in the world, you gotta expect it to come back. That's like if you out here robbing people at gunpoint. At some point, you're gonna get robbed at gunpoint. If you out here cutting people and slashing people, or even just doing certain things, guess what? It could come back to you. So again, be careful and be mindful in what you're doing, and make sure that it's not something that's going to cost you in the long run. For those who like to go with the movie theories, or y'all like to go with the movie references, I'm gonna make a prime example of a movie reference. Menace to Society. We all know what happened to Kane at the end. Half of that could have been avoided on his end. But again, when you're making bad decisions, when you're following the wrong type of people, when the people who really are trying to look out for you and have your best interest at heart, you're not listening, you're just doing what you want to do, and you're not being careful of the people who you associate with, you're not being careful with the people you place around you, look what's going to happen to you. You end up getting something like that in the long run. His downfall, in my opinion, was that situation. After your friends done told you leave that chick alone, especially if you know they telling you that for your own good, should have listened. Because in the long run, look what happened. Try to place a baby on him, and look how he even reacted with that. There was a way he could have got through to that girl, or he could have actually just diffused that situation. But his main downfall was actually doing what he did and stomping out that dude. He didn't even have to get to that. We could have had a war of the words, But in some scenarios, when somebody approaches you, or especially they just come up out of nowhere where you live at, you got a right to defend yourself. But again, it's a way to deal with it. You keep making choices that are hurting your future, when you keep making choices that are going to be damaging to you in the long run, eventually you get what you put out, you know? So for those that don't want that Kane type of situation, better get yourself together, man. And it's time for y'all to start getting your younger ones together. You know, in order for progression to be something and for it to work for you, you got to learn some hard lessons. You know, again, know who to place around you, know who you building with, but again, also taking heed to advice when it's given to you. If your friends is telling you to stay away from certain situations because they already done either had experiences or they know people who did, so take that into consideration. And in some situations, this is exactly why some people are being unalive, because of company that they keep. Now, I'm not saying that that man didn't deserve some form of consequences for slapping this woman, but in the same token, to go to the next level and take a life, that wasn't it. Again, stop leaning towards the weapons. Use the weapons that you were born with. Use those two weapons, or shoot, use the three weapons that God gave you: your mind and your fist, if you need to. Your fist should be your last option. Your mindset should be the first and main thing you use. Be more wiser. Be more careful. Again, it's about that time. Because again, we have so much going on, but we're also losing a lot of people as we speak. And we're losing people who could actually be beneficial, or almost losing people who could be beneficial at some point for the future and for the better of the future. Tired of hearing these stories of young ones, these young teens who haven't got a chance to get anywhere in life because theirs are being taken, unfortunately. Got to start coming back to, again, community outreach and go back to being a strong village. Again, start holding those accountable that need to be held accountable, especially if they the ones that are part of destroying your community. You know, but if ain't nobody gonna hit the link, it's cool. I ain't trying to hold y'all. I gotta slowly start getting myself prepared for later. Um, I will be back tomorrow with another conversation. I don't know if I'm gonna be using that vertical, because apparently vertical was giving people issues with the sound. So I might be back on here and I'll have the link pin. And I'll also be back with a little bit of good vibes tomorrow as well. For those following me on Clapper, apologies. I was trying to come through yesterday, but that storm came out of nowhere just like how it did the other night. And I don't play around with thunder and lightning. So yeah. Um I could make an appearance. I could make an appearance tomorrow night, 9 out of 10. Since I do got tomorrow night off, yes. Most likely, I will definitely see y'all on Clapper. It might be an early one, so we'll see how this pans out. But yeah, again, message of the day, y'all. There's multiple ways to deal with scenarios without having to lead to some form of violence. And for some of you young men and women again out there, stop bringing that toxic, aggressive energy to every scenario. If you could kindly get it together, if you could do that with the war of words, cool. Again, some of y'all ladies, stop with that toxic energy. Stop trying to emasculate men, because guess what? You're going to have some men that are not going to be too kind on it. Stop trying to get physically violent when you know it's not necessary. And vice versa. You fellas got to stop being so quick to act irrational and emotional. Somebody says something that ain't conducive to you, keep it pushing. As long as they ain't physically harming you and you ain't got to defend yourself on a physical level, leave it be, because words are words. I know sometimes words can hurt. Sometimes words are powerful. Sometimes words will place doubt or put certain energy out there. But again, if it ain't truthful, then you don't get mad about it. Straight up. Don't get mad about it at all. You just keep doing what you got to do and move forward for your life. Because again, nobody's going to be able to walk down that road of life but you. Your book ain't over yet. You still got chapters to write. You want to be able to write the best chapters of your life, just like you want to be able to write the worst chapters of your life. Still got to be present in life. So, key thing, you want to live longer and live stronger, you got to be stronger in the mind, mentally, and you got to be stronger spiritually. Appreciate you, Shades, baby. Let me take the time out before I get up out of here to thank every last one of my moderators, especially Sirius. Sirius, baby! You really have been, a great inspiration. You've been a great moderator, still a great moderator. And, need more people like you out there. Gotta definitely give it up to Red Shirt. You already know. Uncle Red Shirt. And shout outs to damn near all the mods that actually make something happen. Word, riders, all y'all been a very important part of just keeping this afloat, keeping it stable. Because again, it's good when you got people that you feed off of, you vibe with. It's cool when you got people who almost speaking about the same things, just on different levels. Again, it's about the growth and the progression. And I want to see every last one of y'all, whether y'all content creators or supporters, I want to see the best for your actual life, not just your internet life, your actual life. Some of y'all already did, some of y'all getting there, but definitely want to say that y'all definitely appreciate it. And I appreciate y'all for humbly rocking out with your boy. You know, it's talks like this that we always need to have, because again, some people are just scared to have it. I ain't scared to have it. If anything, I invite it. Because at some point, we have to get back to what's important. Critical thinking. But for those celebrating birthdays, sorry, I can't play y'all birthday drop. But I can play you this, though. I can play you this. Again, may y'all enjoy your birthday weeks, and going into the weekends. Um, Another year, another blessing around the sun. Continue to keep creating memories. Enjoy every moment of life. Don't take nothing for granted, and utilize what is being given to you. You already know, serious baby. No, but I gotta give that because y'all know me. I might not say it as often. I might not say it all the time. But again, it's a lot of y'all, even some of y'all new ones in here that are making this journey what it feels like it's supposed to be. A peaceful transitioning journey into something greater, you know. But y'all also are the backbone because again, some people fail to realize that without the people, you don't have much. I mean, you can try to do as much as possible, but again, the numbers are supposed to reflect on that. You know, when you have the right strength, the right numbers, and the right people, there's a lot of things that can be done. See, like with these conversations, they mean something. So I'm gonna keep bringing them. I'm in a different mind space in my life, you know, and I'm one of the lucky few I could say that I made it to a certain age and I'm still progressing. You know, I'm not laying in a early cemetery. I'm not sitting up for 25 to life. You know, I might have done some things that could have possibly put me there. But again, when you're young and dumb, hey, you learn certain things, you know. And I thank that higher power every day that I'm able to wake up and bring something great to the people. So, you know, that's the most important thing. You know, again, from experience, you know, you're given what's needed. A great talk, you know, and hopefully somebody did get something out of it. And for some of you adults that need to hear it, these are things that you should be taking a part of. You know, can't just always glorify the negative. Glorify what's positive. Glorify something that's actually meaningful. But yeah, you know, hopefully somebody did get something out of this. And appreciate everybody that's been a part of the build, still becoming a part of the build. And yeah, we still got great conversations. Still gonna keep bringing this content. And for those that don't think that's content, kick rocks, lick rocks, stop smoking rocks on the block. Because again, how long are you gonna glorify negative before you finally want something positive? But let me get my ass up out of here, and I'm gonna leave y'all with this real quick. Oh, you already know. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all for being a part of it. I know you could have been anywhere else, but you chose to sit back and actually listen to something. And I appreciate you. Geraldine, appreciate you, sis. You know, and again, welcome to the eulogy family. Leonica, same thing. Well, shoot, it's been a minute, but you know, we've been rocking out for a minute, you know, and that's for anybody. Even for those who might just be coming back in the fold, ain't nothing changed. Again, we just got to get to a better state. And the best way to do it is to keep having these talks and discussions. But yeah, hold on one second. I just thought about something too. Um, Give or take. Listen, next month, no ifs, ands, or buts. I will be bringing back. It might not be on Thursdays though, but I will be bringing back open mic poetry, music, and comedy. For those who was a part of that, y'all already know I'm gonna definitely post something on the community wall. So if y'all want to bring something up, y'all want to come up, y'all want to do whatever, y'all more than welcome. I'm just gonna figure out this date in particular next month, and yeah, we're gonna rock out. I think I'm gonna have to come out of retirement for a minute. So yeah, y'all more than welcome to hit the panel of the stage, showcase what you gonna showcase. Y'all know how I do it. When I got that link pin, it ain't just for me. I share this out for everybody. But yeah, let me get my ass up out here and start slowly getting ready. But again, for those following me on Clapper, I'll see y'all tomorrow night, definitely. Give or take, I'll see y'all around 6. I'll give y'all some time to get yourselves in order and get yourselves together. But I will be back tomorrow on the tube with this live. It's going to be early. And if I'm not on the vertical, I'll be on here. So hopefully we don't have the same issues like we did today. But if we do, I'll be back on StreamYard and the link will be pinned. So let me get my ass up out of here. If y'all was new to the channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Shout out to the replay game. Shout out to the Shadow Mafia and the Shadow Babies. Y'all know what it is, baby. And for everybody that was in attendance tonight, y'all already know that love is love and it'll be reciprocated as such. I don't know how to be fake. All I can do is give you real. That's all I'm going to do is give you real topics and real builds. And let me leave y'all with a little bit of madness before I get up out of here. Don't worry, I plan on adding some more beats to this sucker too. Yeah, take my time with this. So y'all stay safe, keep that third eye open. And until the next live, we out of here. Peace and blessings.